Okay, I have received these requirements from you, three of you, and let's basically work on them. And here the requirements are not written in a proper way, but let's see how we can basically um, you know put them together. So this is a business analyst here. Now this is what happened when you are in uh, when you are performing your role as a business analyst. You might find information given in a very different way, but how do you make a sense of it? So first I'm going to basically break down each requirement into, like, for example, this is a login. Then what is browse? I don't understand what is a browse means to you, Abhishek. Registered, login or registered. Okay. Print view. What is a print view? Now there are so many print views are there. Any specific print view you want to mention? Okay. Browse services. Okay, so what else? I'm just going to, it is going to be a time consuming, but since now you will know what happens when you are asking people to give you information, and how do you have to basically create create that into a requirement. Okay, so these are your requirement, I believe. I'm going to just delete this part. Let's here look at this login. Number one is, you've mentioned login. Forgot password. Now this is what forgot password is, again part of your login. Okay. Ability to transfer. So just simply we use it as a transfer fund. Here money transfer is mentioned, so I'm going to add it next to that. Download the statements. Here the statements means, I guess it is a print view, right? Okay. When you say the ability to add beneficiary, add beneficiary is again part of your fund transfer. So let's basically create one additional here. Okay, it's already done here. Request loan. So request for loan. Do you have here? Money deposit is there, session is there, so you don't have the loan. So let's put the loan here. Bill payment, to pay bill or recharge. Okay. Here you don't have the bill payment. Okay. Max fund transfer is, okay, these are part of your the add beneficiary. This is again your transfer fund. Secured fund, again this is part of your fund transfer. What is session count? I don't understand. What do you mean by session count here? Verify and authorize users view. Authorize users, that is your login. Okay. View account balance and request bank statement. Okay, let that put them together into the bank statement view and download. Manage beneficiary. Verify and authorize transaction. manage beneficiary. Here it is your beneficiary. Authorized transaction means you mean to say transfer the fund. Authorized transaction, security of the transaction. Okay, so here it is your fund transfer. Security of transaction, now here that is part of your again fund transfer requirement. So I'm going to basically add this. User privacy confidentiality, that's your the special requirement. Let's check if that is part. Request for banking services to keep audit trail. Request banking services, so that's again I think it should be your banking services. What banking services you are referring to? Secure transaction, and here also it is audit trail can be okay, part of this one. Regulatory requirement, I don't know what regulatory requirement you're talking about, I'm not mentioning here. So now what I did, that I have basically tried to align all your statements together. Okay, here let's put them into the 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9. What do you mean by request flash? Now have you added loan now? Okay, if it is loan, or this is your loan. Okay, what is new flashes means, Abhishek? Security purposes the bank maintains the session count. Okay, so that's your new flashes. So this is your the same here, this one, new flashes, if that is the one you're talking about. Session count and session count is the same as
Basically, newsflash, I mean to say, usually when you log into a system, the banking system,
uh-huh.
they are the markers. Those fly on the headings. They kind of they travel and they tell us the new updates are here, or new services are introduced,
Okay,
or
okay.
the rates are going up now
New
for currencies.
flashes,
So the
or
news flash basically.
you're talking about some promotions, right? Okay, let's take that as a
Yeah, kind
promotion.
of.
Okay, and what is now feedback you have mentioned, others have not mentioned. Now here it is the
Yeah.
loan and the bill payment is there. Have you mentioned loan? No, you have not mentioned, right?
No,
So
no. For me, the loans and bill payment are the services basically, because those will come under services which bank will provide. Basically, bank has the core is the amount deposit and transfer. Rest all the loans, bill payment will come under services, which I mentioned in the point second.
but where is the services? It is not mentioned here.
The browse services. The second point.
Oh, the second point. Now this is very
Yes.
difficult. Okay. So let me take this one. There's a lot of noise around. Okay, so now what I will do, these are all requirement. Let's not take this as a second. So this one we will mention. Now here is my requirement. One is a login, right? Or create account, you cannot, you have to go to the branch and then create the account. You can't just create online. I guess you need to call and do, because in the banking services a login has a different process. So you need to submit the documents and the verification and all this thing happens. So let's put it only as a login here. And of course you can log in and the password management. Okay, so that's basically I'm considering as one. And here we can talk about the statement, view and download. Okay, so this is my requirement coming out of here, this one. Now third is basically money deposit. How do you deposit money online? There is no way you can deposit the money, so let's take this out. Only in the ATM you can do it. So next comes to your fund transfer. So let's take this as a fund transfer. Okay, Now in the fund transfer, these are your additional requirement for the fund transfer, additional fund transfer requirement. Okay, so that we can discuss later on when we talk about this. Then you have mentioned about security requirement. Okay, let's talk about the security requirement. So here in the security we can take this also as well as. Okay, so and then next comes to your you have mentioned is a promotion, then there is a loan, loan request, then you have bill payment. Let's take it as a bill payment. Okay, all right, so this is what we have covered everything now here. Now the majority of them, let me just see, everyone agreed to this all, right? Except the promotion, everyone agrees to everything. So let's also delete this one. Now 1 2 3, this one is 4 5 6 7 8. So we got total 8 requirement here. Now this is where how you may want to basically put them together. Everyone has feedback, also no one agrees, so I'm just adding the feedback, but of course there is no one is supporting your requirement. Now when you actually start collecting the feedback, managing the stakeholders, you will find this is a common issue, that some stakeholder will add a particular requirement and then you will see majority of them either supporting or opposing them, right? So this is something which I have basically, considering the majority, I put this together. But if you see in this requirement, the promotion, I'm going to make them as a red, feedback is also red. So this is not been supported by others. So you may find the requirement here, but out of that, if you see, the other requirements have been supported by everyone, and this is a majority of these are the requirement which is accepted and agreed by majority, I would consider that. And these two requirements is a unique requirement by a unique stakeholder. So we can basically consider that later stage whether they are important or not important. So considering this one, so right now our final requirement will be, I'm just going to copy this one, but okay, but I'm not going to basically, but now since this is not been supported, let's remove this one. So, and again additional fund requirement, I will add them under the fund requirement itself. So let's not have this one, just put it as a fund requirement. So when we discuss the fund requirement, we will accommodate everybody's needs. So these are your requirement, correct? So you may find there will be 10-15 requirement, out of that you will have to scope them. So this is what you could consider. Yes, I know it is. Even I bank with SBI, Abhishek. So considering the SBI's the comprehensive site, I understand. Session, yes, the session actually management, that is a part of your security requirement. So maybe you want to add that as a the login and the password management. Within that, you can also add the session management. Is it okay? Because that is related to your security and login related, right? So it is not something a unique feature, right? So let's basically talk based on your requirement. We will talk about that whether a bank should go ahead with online banking solution or not. Consider we are in the mid 90s. Okay, mid 90s means around 20 years ago. Yeah, 22 years ago, right? So that's the time when people, the banks were not online, or maybe just at the started, so that is a time when people consider, and especially when the internet came in picture. So that's the when most of the bank wanted to go online, but the real time data transfer was a big challenge. Okay, so I'm talking about, you consider that 98, just approximately 20 years ago. So that is a situation when the bank wanted to go online and they come across this situation. So 98 2000 is a time frame, and when the operations head want to introduce online banking solution, he has proposed this as a what we call solution, and then he has to basically talk to various stakeholders. This is how we have basically discussed with different stakeholders, elicited the requirement, put them together. Again, this is again high level, we are only talking about the scope, we are not even talking about the requirement. So we are talking about only high level features or functionalities in order to define our scope. Okay, so based on the discussion, initial discussion, we have defined this as a scope, and then we invited the project manager. Project manager, along with other team, he has come back to us and provided the budget. Can you guess what could be the budget of this one project? What do you think the budget should be? 5 million, 10 million, how, whatever you feel. 2 crores is basically 20 million, yeah, INR. That's very little actually. This is a very significant. Only 250. Oh, wow. I think I wish we all should start a bank now. It's so cheaper basically here in 90s. Yeah, definitely. 50 lakhs. Okay, too much, 2 crore, too much. Nah? No, actually a lot of requirement goes into it. You are not able to understand. There has to be some parallel operations. The operation, the moment you talk about the operations, there will be a lot of significant investment is required. Solution, you are only considering the solution as a part, but operating model is different. 2 crore, yes, was not much money. It was, but considering the bank solution, it was not. Okay, let's put it as a, now 2 crore, you can, at that time it was 1 million USD. I'm going to put it as a 1 million USD. This is very conservative. I don't think you will get it in 1 million unless you are a small bank and you are opting for some product. Okay. Now you have to justify this requirement, I mean this solution to your the sponsorer. How would you justify? We have to basically create something, the cost versus benefit. Now this is your cost, right? Now we have to list our benefits. Can you talk about the benefits? Now I'm going to basically talk about tangible, intangible both. Tangible means I'm expecting you to calculate. Can you list those tangible, intangible benefits? Then we will do the calculation. You can speak or write in the chat, either way is fine. Okay, that's your intangible. Faster and comfortable customer service. Okay, faster, comfortable, convenient actually, because if the customer is traveling abroad, so he doesn't have to worry about paying the rent or some amount, right, the bills, because he can just transfer the money online. Isn't that convenient? So that's one is important. This is something, spell check. Okay. All right. Now, what else? Any other banking 24/7 services? Yes. That is very important. Anytime, anywhere, right? Anytime, anywhere. What else? That's intangible. How about tangible? How about tangible? I got that less customer, that less footfall. What happens if the customer 50% customer reduced to visit? I mean, 50 customer footfall has reduced. So what does that mean? I remember going to the SBI in Andheri West branch in Mumbai, and I've seen significant changes. In '98, there was a crowd, but in there was a moderate crowd, but it was crowded definitely. But in 2002, I think 2006 or 7, the crowd was unbelievable. It was not manageable at all. That is a time when the SBI introduced online banking. They pushed significantly. So but then it was still not basically settled. But now when I go to Andheri West SBI, find very less crowd there. Now it is again manageable because most of the people don't need to visit. They are basically uh, right. They are basically doing most of the transactions online. The services has improved significantly, to be honest with you. So this is what happens. There was a transition period for 4 to 5 years. At that time, it was unbelievable, right? So you think about that, if they had to manage that large crowd, they couldn't even handle that size of the bank, right? I mean, they had to expand. So the moment you talk about expansion, then what would you say? You need a bigger space, more rent, more people, more operations. But now, since the crowd has reduced, it means the customers have reduced, so they can manage more number of customers in the lesser space with the lesser the officers. Now I see the officers are also reduced. So this is something is important, like when we talk about that the new part. Like, let's talk about the one by one. What we say, reduced operation cost. Now here we can take only two cost. One is employee, another is office space, bank space, the branch space. Okay, now you can consider what is the second one. Have you thought about the statement? Let me calculate about the statement. How much money it required to basically, as per the banking law, every bank has to provide a statement to the customer every month. So what is the cost of the printing? Let me know. Hypothetically, this bank has, this is a small bank that has 20 branches only, 20 branches and 50, maybe 100,000 customer. That's a lot actually. So this is our hypothetical. Okay. So you tell me, each bill, when you have to, each statement you have to print, what is a printing cost? I'm talking about USD. Yeah? So even if you consider 1 USD as a printing cost, because we are talking about the paper and the printing, right? Minimum 2 pages. So minimum 2 page for 1 USD, right? And what is the courier charges? Courier charges is around what? Another $1. So we can consider $2, correct? $2 is a cost. And how many customers can opt for online statement? Yes, passbook printing also. But consider how many 50%. 50% means 50,000 customers are opting, correct? So the $2 you need to pay for the 50%, that is a cost you are reducing, plus 12 months, plus let's take it for 5 years. So this is the basically saving if you are asking them to download online, so you don't have to dispatch these number of basically the statement. Here it is, $2 per statement cost, 50,000 people opting for the online what we call statement, so that you don't need to send them paperback version, and for the 12 months for 5 years. So this is the cost, right? Exactly. So when you're talking about the same thing, the I'm just giving you this one as a statement. Okay, it's the cost of the statement, reduced cost of the statement. Now I'm going to go to the next level, deposit money or withdraw money or transfer the money, right? What you are talking about, the transfer the money. Let's talk about the transfer amount. So if you are charging maybe 50 cents, let's talk about the 50 cents for the transfer. How many transfers you are expecting people to do? Tell me. How many transfers you expect people to do? Minimum 50% or maybe 30%. So you are talking about the 30,000. And if they do one transfer, they can do minimum 10 transfer in a year. So this is what I'm talking about, and multiply by 5. So this is, we are talking about the 5 years. So $0.5, 35,000 people transferring, making a 10 transfer for 5 years. So this is amount. This is the earning basically. Earning from transfer fund. Let's keep that as a transfer. Now next we are talking about loan request. This is very significant. How many people will request loan online? Yes, that we will calculate next. Oh, toss in. How many people will request loan? 50%? Oh, that's a lot. We are very optimistic. 25% we can consider online. So, what is the percentage of what is the average amount of loan people usually go for? Maybe 5,000 should be okay. So 25,000 loan disbursement, but you may not, even they apply, you may not get that many. So let's take it as a conservatively 15,000 people up getting the loan, and 5,000 amount, and what's the percentage of interest you will be earning per month or per annum? In this case it will be per annum, so the percentage will be 2% minimum, 3%. So even if I consider 0.2% earning per annum, and for 5 years actually. So now you know why you get so many calls from the people asking you, do you need loan sir, do you need a loan madam, right? So there are so many calls are there because it's a very lucrative business basically. When they offer a loan, they make a lot of money actually, right? And there are so many unsolicited calls from the banks, right, and from a financial institute. They will be after you to basically opt for a payment. loan. Of course, it is asset for the loan. Now, if you give a if you keep money as a fixed deposit with the bank, how much they offer? They offer you, in India, they offer you 6%, but the same money they take it from you and give it to the second person or next person as a loan, and they charge about 10 to 12%. So the total earning is basically minimum 4% to 7% or 8%. That's the amount of basically percentage they earn. So the more loan you take it, the more interest they earn, right? So the bill payment, so you are looking at the bill payment is basically how much the if they charge $2, not even $2, maybe 0.5 dollars, half a dollar, okay, 0.5 multiply by 1,000 people will be paying online the bill, not 1,000, 10,000, 10,000 plus how many days? 12 months for 5 years. So this is the amount they will earn from bill payment. They may not earn this much, or maybe it could be other way around, that the company whose I mean on whose behalf they are collecting the bills, they may offer, because it helps them to improve their cash flow. For example, if the Airtel is asking you to pay the bill from the bank, because it's most of the people pay the bill, but sometimes due to inconvenience or something they may forget, and for them, if they have to put a call center to chase a customer to make the bill payment, so it becomes very difficult. The cost of that call center and the resources will be extremely high. Instead of that, they can send an email, and then I expect the customers to basically pay online or ask for the auto deduction. So that becomes very easy for the customers as well as for the service provider. And service providers, for them, they get the bill amount on time, so they have the better cash flow and they can plan better, so that becomes easier, and the customers don't have to pay the penalty. So that's the the benefits for the customer, right? For the bank, they can just ask the service provider to pay the maybe 1% or 2%. So in that case, if you're looking at, even if it is 2%, 1% of the collection, so if the collection is, for example, 500,000, that not a very big amount, 500,000, and per month, so that is 12 months per 5. So that is also a very good amount. I'm talking about 1% of the collection, and 500,000 they can easily collect. Maybe if it is 500,000 is sounds too big amount, so we can basically reduce this one to 50,000 per month, so that less people are paying. So that's still a good amount of money. So if you want to basically, so this is the amount. So 1 million, if you are investing, you are expecting 84 million dollars as income, which I'm not even added the reduced the operation cost, that is employee cost and the office cost. If you're looking at operations, if you just check the employee, if you are able to each branch can reduce 2 employees, so that you have a 20 branches, so how many employees you can have? 2 means 40 employees, right? So they can let go 2 employees, 2 employees cost. So in this case, what is the average salary of the employee? 3,000 USD for 12 months for 40 employees and for 5 years. So let's basically reduce this. So this is a 91,000. Okay. So when you are talking about, if it is of 91, even if you, this is for 5 years, 5 years earning estimated. because it's not actual, right? So if you are talking about the 5 years of basically estimated earning, so think about that. 1 year could be anywhere more than $1 million easily, right? The first year. So that is what we are talking about. The break even is, even could be less than 12 months. So when you're talking about break even could be less than 12 months, so it is basically a profitable, the uh, profitable, I would say, the project. So in this case you can present to this case to your the sponsor for the funding, right? So there are two things what we learned here. A is a scope, where basically based on the stakeholders inputs we have created the scope. Here is a scope, and then we have basically calculated the cost and also versus benefit. So this is your cost versus benefit analysis. Okay, and which we talked about the cost here. Okay, question.
Uh,
We have not
yeah, my
factored the
question is,
maintenance, right? Yeah, so you can add the maintenance cost here. The 1 million is a cost. You can also add the maintenance cost is 1 million per annum. That's fine, but considering that as well, still you can consider this as a basically profitable. If you think 1 million is less, then you can also add 2 million. Doesn't matter how many people would be. Yes, question.
yeah, my question is, see, now that we know we have already in the modern banking age, we actually know we can predict, but how these estimate calculations were made back in 90s? So that's my question. Because uh, so that's it would have taken. So now, if you tell me I have to move a traditional bank to a modern bank, I can give the estimate in 2 days, 3 days. But long back, it would have taken almost month or 3 months.
Yes, it takes a lot of time basically to estimate, not month, but you don't get time. You had to present all this estimated, right? We never say this is actual. When the sponsors also will know that based on certain assumptions we have calculated, right? And these are the left is all your assumption. Number of people opting for statement, number of people opting for loan request, number of people paying the bill. Based on that we have basically presented. And if you see whether it is earlier or now, it does not matter. It's all about how, what are the parameters you consider for the earning estimations, right? So we have considered, this is very obvious that you are reducing the employee. Those cost is easily can be calculated considering their salary and considering their number of years, right? So that easily. Same thing as a reduced office cost. If you are able to manage the, right now if you have a 2000 square feet office, the branch, and if you want to reduce to 1000, that should be okay. I remember in the Jersey City, I used to walk into the Bank of America. It was such a huge bank and it was crowded earlier. But recently, when I went, there were hardly any people, two people or max three customers. There are no people around, and they're still holding on to such a big branch. So this is something which can be considered. These factors can be seen, and that you are estimating, again estimating against number of people using the what we call branch facilities, and how much you are going to reduce and why you think it is important. This is a projection happens in every field. When they want launch, any company wants to launch a new product or the services, at the time they go through all this projection, market share, the possible capturing the business, and based on various parameters they project, and then they see whether to go or no go a particular the product or services. Same thing applies here as well. So based on various factors we are basically talking about, yes, this is a cost and these are the benefits. The next we also have to basically talk about the risk. So we have to talk about the risk. What are the risks a particular company will face, after putting online, so then you have to consider security, security risk. This is very important. Then you are talking about basically insurance, because if you are keeping insurance is very expensive. The reason is if there is a breach of security or there is any lawsuit or some the legal issues are there arises due to the security or the customer details or privacy. So in that case, if any customer sues, probably you may have to pay money, so that cost is also included into it. So considering all this thing, okay, these are the risks we have. Do we want to go ahead or we don't want to go ahead? It's simple. When you want to buy a car, what are the risks you have? You know, you have a budget, and that is a facilities what you will get. But again, you also know the risk of basically car and driving, right? So do you want to go ahead? We don't want to go ahead, right? So consider these various factors and present your case. I'm just showing you the basic criteria. This is like helping you to understand how you can think through different parameters and come up with your projections and present your case. So there could be many different parameters depending on the project, the size, complexity, and the topic, the domain, and again the company. Many things you can consider. Okay, so this is basically the end of your the first practical session.